This video is something that has been on my mind for a while. I've had the thought to do this video because I'm always hearing people give Ronda Rousey so much credit for women's MMA being the first, being the pioneer, and all of these things. After her loss to Amanda Nunes, I heard people saying it on the radio over and over. I'm hearing these terms. If it wasn't for Ronda, women wouldn't be in the UFC, women wouldn't be here, women's MMA wouldn't exist, all these kind of things. I'm sitting here Friday evening, January 13th, 2017. I was looking at some YouTube videos. And I came across this by Speak For Yourself on FS1 on YouTube. Ronda Rousey, an amazing role model, ? Type that in, it should pop right up. And it says Florian and I think it says Bryant for Karen Bryant. They start discussing Ronda Rousey, if she's a good role model or not. And in this video, they constantly credit her for, being the pioneer. Women wouldn't be in the UFC. Women's MMA, wouldn't be what it is without Ronda Rousey, all these kind of things. Look, I have been watching and buying UFC pay-per-view since 2010. But I was a huge Elite XC fan, which was around, I believe, in the beginning of 2007. It's the first time I saw an Elite XC show. And I was a big fan of Elite XC and Strikeforce because I didn't have to pay pay-per-view. All I had to do was tune into CBS or Showtime, and I saw great fights, top-level athletes. I was never disappointed as a fan of those shows. Okay, and we're going to start from the beginning. Gina Carano was probably the biggest star in Elite XC and the beginning of Strikeforce's run after they bought Elite XC. The first time I saw Gina Carano, it must have been end of 2006, beginning of 2007. I was watching Showtime. I don't know what I was watching, but whatever TV show, movie, whatever it was, went off. And in between shows, there was this little quick, 3-4 minute introduction of who Gina Carano is and was. It might have been shorter. It might have been 2 minutes. Who knows? But when I saw this woman, I tell you, my jaw hit the floor. Gina Carano was and still is a stunning and beautiful woman. I saw this beautiful smile, this long black hair, this model face. Gina Carano was stunning. And the fact that she was a fighter, which I had not seen women's MMA up to that point. Hell, I had not even seen much of women's boxing up to that point. I had seen women's boxing, but I mean, it was rare. I mean, when I saw it, and I think they showed highlights of her in her Muay Thai days. When I saw her and they said that she was going to be fighting on whatever date it was, from what I'm looking at, maybe it was February 10th, 2007. Maybe that was the day that I saw her fight. Whatever day they said it was, I tuned in. I was hooked. They had me. I had to see this woman. I had to see her fight. I had to just see her, And, of course, from 2007 through 2008, Gina Carano was a huge star in Elite XC. She was the feature fighter. When I would see Gina Carano throw a punch, I would say, damn, I thought Gina Carano threw like a man. This fine woman Beautiful face, beautiful long hair, big breasted, just beautiful woman who could punch like with power like a dude, you know. And I love Gina Carano. I was a huge Gina Carano fan, and if she, not only was she the face of women's MMA, but she might have been the face of Elite XC. Well, at least along with Kimbo, because they, of course, he was the the guy that they pushed in that promotion. But Gina Carano was special. Okay. So Elite XC goes out of business, and she fights Cris Cyborg on August 15th, 2009. Okay. Cris Cyborg. I do not or did not recall seeing Cyborg fight before she fought Gina Carano. I just knew that it was a big fight. I knew that Cyborg was a big deal. You could tell this woman was shredded. She looked dangerous. It was for the inaugural featherweight title fight, or title in Strikeforce. And she seemed like a serious threat to Gina Carano, okay? I was rooting for Gina Carano to win that fight. I watched that fight live. And Cris Cyborg finished Gina Carano within the first round. I was hoping that she would survive and make it until the second round, but the referee, I believe it was Big John, I can't remember, but the referee stopped the fight with a second to go in the round. And oh, I hated it, but I couldn't deny what Cyborg did. This woman was the truth. And as I said in a previous video, Gina Carano was the face of women's MMA. After what Cyborg had done to her, to me, Cyborg had become the face of women's MMA. And she carried the torch. She carried what Gina Carano had built as the face of women's MMA for, over 2 years, And Gina Carano, through her small time in MMA, is still riding the wave of that success. She has done movies. She was a star in a major motion picture. She was in one of the Fast and Furious movies. This woman has done well for herself based off of her MMA career and what she was to MMA. As I looked on her Wikipedia page, it said that she was the first woman, one of the first women, to fight in a sanctioned female MMA bout in Nevada. This woman is a true pioneer of the game. Okay. Gina Carano, and that was in 2006, I believe that fight was. This woman, the face of women's MMA, the first face, she deserves that pioneering, title. Okay, if it was not for Gina Carano, Cris Cyborg wouldn't have had the platform to come on to where she came, and certainly Ronda Rousey would not have, okay? But Cris Cyborg was right there in the super early beginning stages of major women's MMA on big time television. They drew when they fought on Strikeforce. That fight was the first fight where women headlined the MMA card, a major MMA card, probably ever in the world, okay? They set a ratings record on Showtime for MMA. Think about it. These two women, okay? The beautiful face of women's MMA and this destructive looking woman, monster that was Cris Cyborg. And of course I say that with affection and respect. We know I love some Cris Cyborg, okay? This woman and Gina Carano, it said the event drew an average of 576,000 viewers on Showtime. Okay. It peaked, it says, at 856,000 viewers. Okay. That was the new MMA ratings record for Showtime. So, women's MMA had been well established thanks to Gina Carano and the 2+ years that she had put in Elite XC, and what these women had done. women's MMA was here to stay. It was on the map. It was official. Thanks to Gina Carano, thanks to Cris Cyborg, who then took that torch and has been running with it ever since. Okay. Now, from that point, I have followed Cyborg's career all the way up to what it is now. As I said, I still feel and view her as the face of women's MMA. This woman has been undefeated for 11 years. The most destructive force in all of MMA, men or women, because she pretty much finishes and dominates all her opponents. Undefeated for 11 years. Okay. And Ronda Rousey came along in 2011, 2012. I'm taking a quick peek. Strikeforce Challengers, November 18th, 2011. She beat Miesha Tate on March 3rd, 2012. She beat Sarah Kaufman August 18th, 2012. Okay. The Gina Carano Cris Cyborg fight took place on August 15th, 2009. Okay. Ronda Rousey, her title fight was over 2 years later. A little over 2 years later, March 3rd, 2012. So, Ronda Rousey should be thankful to Gina Carano and Cris Cyborg, the women who I consider and who hardcores and everybody should consider the true pioneers and faces of women's MMA. Ronda Rousey, if it was not for those two women and what they had done for what Gina done in Elite XC and what Cris Cyborg helped to do in the beginning stages of them in Strikeforce, I'm telling you, it might not be a place for Ronda Rousey to fight. So women's MMA was established, okay? When the UFC bought Strikeforce, okay? Of course, Dana was against putting women in the UFC. Alright. And let's see. Invicta was formed, basically it says, because Shannon Knapp had received calls from women who had competed in Strikeforce that were concerned about their careers. Okay. The first Invicta event was held on April 28, 2012. That was like a little over a month, almost 2 months after the Tate Rousey fight. Okay. And then, of course, Rousey had one more fight in Strikeforce in August of 2012. So, Invicta had been established before Rousey had her last fight in Strikeforce. They give all this credit to Ronda Rousey. Oh, you know, she was the one that convinced Dana. She was the one who brought women's MMA into the UFC. If it wasn't for her, it wouldn't be a women's MMA. Women wouldn't have a place in MMA, all this kind of stuff. If Dana White had not opened the door to Ronda Rousey, women's MMA would have survived. It would be alive and well somewhere else, whether it's Invicta or Bellator or in some other promotion. Women's MMA would be alive. It would be doing just fine, okay? He didn't have a choice. He didn't. Because if he had not brought Rousey in, if he had been like, oh, well, you know what, I'm not going to let you women in, Rousey could have went to Invicta. I'm sure Bellator would have loved to have signed Ronda Rousey, okay? And same thing with Cris Cyborg. These people, they would have loved to hell Invicta sign Cris Cyborg. And she has been the biggest star that they've had, you know, and have survived, you know, with the help of Cris Cyborg. You know, Invicta is putting on fights, okay? There would have been a place for women's MMA. They give Rousey too much credit. The credit should go to Gina Carano and Cris Cyborg. These are the women who paved the way for a Ronda Rousey. You know, that's why it blows my mind. Cris Cyborg was kicking ass long before Ronda Rousey came along. You know? So I had to make this video because Ronda Rousey gets too much credit, you know. Did she do some amazing things in MMA? Yes, she did. She did for women's MMA. In the UFC, she did some amazing things. In Strikeforce, she did some amazing things. But she was not the original. The original was Gina Carano, followed by Cris Cyborg. Those two women made history together. They will always be linked. And the credit should be given to them. And I'm making this video so people, whether it's, you know, years from now, somebody sees this video, because it seems like these women are forgotten. It's all about Rousey and what she did. These two women deserve the credit for putting women's MMA on the map. Okay? I had to say this. This needs to be noted. This needs to be saved and passed on and on. You know, it's not all about Ronda Rousey. And women's MMA was fine and would have been fine if she did not exist in women's MMA. If she had not come along and Dana did not want to bring women into the UFC, they would be kicking ass in Invicta or in Bellator, just like they were in Elite XC and just like they were in Strikeforce. You know, hell, don't think that they didn't pay attention to that huge rating that the women got when they headlined in Strikeforce. Okay, so it's not all about Rousey. You know, he had to do it, or he would have gave up a huge. He would have gave up a huge segment of MMA. Women are headlining cards in the UFC on pay-per-view and Big Fox. You know, he had to do it. He had to do it. So they overhype, you know, Ronda's impact and what she did for women's MMA. And this needs to be said. Gina Carano and Cris Cyborg, two pioneers, the two original faces of women's MMA. Hell, Gina Carano was the original face. And as far as I'm concerned, Cris Cyborg is still, until someone defeats her and knocks her off the throne. She has been on throne ever since she beat Gina Carano, which was, 8 years ago? You know? So, I had to say this. And I'm looking through. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I want to give these women all the credit that they deserve. You know, Ronda Rousey, she did good things, but she needs to be thanking Carano and Cyborg. I heard her say that she would fight Carano at any weight at one time, you know, because she was so thankful for Carano. Well, her ass should be thankful to Cris Cyborg too, because Cris Cyborg was and still is the most destructive force in women's MMA, you know, and those women made history together. So I want to say this: it's not all about Rousey. Rousey is not this ultimate pioneer. You know, women, if they didn't bring them in when they did, they would have eventually had to, you know, because as I said, women were kicking ass and would have still been kicking ass, whether it was in Invicta or in Bellator. So I just had to make this, man, and let's give these ladies the love and respect that they deserve. Gina Carano and Cris Cyborg, the real pioneers of women's MMA. Thanks for watching.